69th independence celebrations. And also coming up, Ghana set to proceed with plans to introduce a new sliding scale royalty regime for gold mining to replace the current flat 5% royalty rate. This and many more coming up. Welcome back, and these are the details. Members of an anti-illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing task force in the Volta region say they are facing growing intimidation and resistance. This follows the recent arrest of suspects linked to light fishing activities in Way waters and within the Anoga district.
The only thing that is exceptional over there is that they don't have the time to call us before we report issues. We give issues to them before they act on it. So we think they should at least be following the matter, and a representative from the zonal office or the regional office should at times visit and witness the cases so that they know what we are going through on the ground and how best they can also support us. Even at the police station, it's not easy for us. But I recommended Commander, he has done his best. But in fact, it's very disheartening that we as a citizen, why we manage to get a corporate, even to file the case, the police will still be demanding for us to give a money before they can make some disclosures. And my question is that if we the community makers, there are no resources, how can we have the money when the case that the government is supposed to handle? Then we, the community, we have to be using our money to be supporting the project.
And away from that, the sale of beads and clothes in Ghana usually go up, particularly during the Ghana Month celebration. The surge in sales is attributed to the cultural significance of these items and their popularity during themed events at work or church. Esther Nuwakpo has been speaking to traders on this year's Ghana Month celebration and sale of beads.
As we celebrate Ghana Month, many people are turning to traditional beads to complement their outfits. Now, with demand typically rising during this period, question remains whether the prices have increased. We spoke to some traders to find out about sales and whether there had been any changes in prices.
People were coming and then buying, but the prices are the same. We haven't increased it or distributed the same. It remained the same as we sell earlier last year, and they say the same thing, but the sales was better than before.
Okay, some of them that has not reduced the staffs. Because you want your things to go faster, it means you have to also act smart in the market. Like the day before seat match, people came here to buy African wears and other stuff, children's set necklace. So last year we were selling it like on normal basis. This year to the same. It has no increase. But the more you sell your own cheaper, the more they buy from you.
Ghana Month ama Ghana for no obia for say obenya bibi e de ato ne nsa na say obenya tali bi ache na obia kire say odo Ghana nti o moto ade kakra e mae me omugu so kra e ton kakra
beat ne de o moto, and it's not only Ghana Month and o moto e ade a ye ba business idea anytime bia no o moto, but I do Ghana Month ade che 6 match o mo be sha ku school ne de e ma like wo ba bebre na we to but efa ne to no ho de e koso after Ghana Month and still no moto be active business no moto
so ne de e down because almost just until they don't patronize beats or man to beats until sales no price no there what they wanna send ya ton titi san netia
Ade obiara ne price. Nti untumi judge say untumi kase obiara price e kro. Obiara ne price. Me say ne dey. Sometimes me consider say servita fracha me won kwala ofi. Nti me bana say obi beto ade na say me bobo na me yisoma no to the sense menya bibi dia kofi akoshe kwala no. Cause me fa business bi kofi say me manu entrance na endi. Nti me dey ne dey. For me, dear, me titi me nyamane so kaka.
And as the Ghana Man celebration continues, traders are hoping the love for culture will reflect in their sales. Metro News, I am Esther Nwoko Osu.
Let's continue on to enjoy the Ghana Month, and happy Ghana Month to all Ghanaians. And away from that, Ghana has recorded 1,038 confirmed cases of mpox, monkeypox, with 8 deaths as of March 3, 2026. According to the Ministry of Health, the outbreak, which began in May 2025, has affected 124 districts across the country, with the Greater Accra region and Western region emerging as the most affected areas. Addressing Parliament on Monday, March 9th, the Minister for Health, Kwabena Minka Akando, outlined the government's response measures aimed at containing the disease and protecting public health.
Mpox is a zoonotic infection and remains a public health concern globally and on the African continent. Since the outbreak began in May 2025, the Ministry of Health, through the Ghana Health Service and with partner support, has activated a coordinated multi-sectorial response aimed at interrupting transmission and protecting public health. For clarity, while 880 cases had been confirmed as at 25th November 2025, the situation update as at 3rd March 2026 is that Ghana has recorded 1,038 confirmed cases and 8 deaths, largely among persons with underlying health conditions. 124 districts across all regions, representing 47.51%, have reported confirmed cases, with the Greater Accra and Western regions being the most affected. There is currently 1 case on admission with no critical cases. The response is being implemented through strengthened coordination and emergency operations, intensified surveillance and contact tracing with 21-day follow-up, and sustained laboratory testing at the National Public Health Reference Laboratory, the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, and the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research Case Management and Infection Prevention and Control have also been reinforced, including supervised home isolation for mild cases and management of moderate to severe cases in designated facilities with support from the Ghana Infection Disease Center. In addition, risk communication and community engagement have been intensified through public education and engagement with community leaders, civil society, and the media. On vaccination, reactive vaccination have been implemented in identified hotspots. Among high-risk contacts, Ghana received 33,600 Mpox vaccines from Africa CDC and WHO, and 31,231 persons have been vaccinated across 12 districts in the Ashanti, Greater Accra, and Western regions, achieving coverage exceeding 95% of the target population.
And still on the Health Minister, Kwabena Minka Akando, he has disclosed that the government is considering supporting foreign medical treatment for Sandra Berfi Boateng, a young woman who has sustained injuries during the military recruitment exercise Stampede. According to the minister, the decision will depend on recommendations from medical professionals as authorities continue to monitor her condition and ensure that she receives treatment.
The Ministry of Health has remained actively engaged in ensuring Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital to ensure that Ms. Sandra Berfi Boateng received the requisite specialist care and that every necessary step is being taken to expedite her treatment and recovery. Without disclosing sensitive clinical details, Mr. Speaker, I can confirm that the patient sustained serious injuries during the Ghana Armed Forces recruitment exercise held on 12 November 2025 at Baba Yara Sports Stadium, following which she received inpatient care under specialist supervision. The measures being implemented to support her treatment and recovery include ensuring that her medical bills are fully covered by government so that no cost is passed on to the patient or her family. This has been complemented by comprehensive care delivered through a specialist-led multidisciplinary team, together with the required rehabilitation and related social support to optimize recovery. The Speaker, the patient has since 26 February 2026 been transferred to the 37 Military Hospital for further management. Government is also considering all appropriate medical options, both locally and where necessary abroad, to ensure that she receives the best available care. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry is facilitating the training and continuous capacity building of first responders to strengthen emergency response systems and improve outcomes for Ghanaians who may be affected by similar incidents. The Ministry of Health remains committed to supporting the patient's full continuum of care. We will continue to work with the relevant health facilities and, where necessary, engage other state institutions to ensure continuity of treatment, rehabilitation, and appropriate follow-up until her condition stabilizes sufficiently for discharge and subsequent outpatient management.
Let's turn our attention now to data protection, and the agency has cautioned Ghanaians against the unlawful sharing and dissemination of personal data, warning that such actions could have serious future implications, especially in the face of rising global data security threats.
With the rise of digital channels such as social media and also even some of the digital, our digital footprint we leave behind, it's become even more important for us to protect our personal data. We have to be cautious about what we put out there. We have to be cautious about who we put out, because basically anything you put out today, once it goes out, it becomes very difficult for you to be able to get it out. And so it's really important for us to be guided. But we're also calling especially for data controllers, because it's a two-way street. There is the data subject who sometimes don't know what their rights are and what their responsibilities are, may not have adequate information. But it's also a responsibility of those that collect this information to make sure that, one, the Data Protection Act requires that they register with the Data Protection Commission to be able to process personal data, to be able to collect and process personal information. And secondly, when they want to change the processing, that they also come and then get a data protection impact assessment done.
And still on data protection, Chairman of Parliament's Communications Committee, Abednego Bandim, has called on fellow members of Parliament to thoroughly scrutinize the data protection bill to ensure it prescribes tougher punishment for individuals who compromise personal data, particularly through social media platforms such as TikTok and WhatsApp.
Earlier on, you asked whether they were empowered to prefer punitive measures against people who violate data protection laws. I think no. If you look at the law passed in 2012, it has not given them the teeth to bite when there are failures, when there are violations. And we think that the bill that is coming, Parliament will have to scrutinize it very well and ensure that it empowers data protection to be able to bite against those who violate the law. Because these people or multinationals that are involved in all collecting this data and developing AI and all of that are international organizations. Do they comply with our laws? I mean, I am very skeptical about it. Many of the data that they collect are sitting outside of our jurisdiction. And you will realize that even now, in the war against Iran, there are data centers targeted. And imagine that these multinationals, like Google, for example, like Facebook, like X, like TikTok, have the data of our nationals sitting elsewhere outside the country.
And away from that, the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police has uncovered a large-scale operation involving the theft and processing of cables belonging to the Electricity Company of Ghana. More than 100 tons of stolen service cables were recovered during the raid at a company in Kong industrial area near Tema, where 10 suspects were arrested. There's more in this report.
The operation was carried out by officers from the CID headquarters on March 4, 2026, following intelligence gathered on illegal activities at the premises of Central Company in the Kong industrial area. According to the Director General of the CID, Commissioner of Police Lydia Yako Donko, officers arrived at the location around 3:30 p.m. and found about 70 workers actively cutting and stripping service cables belonging to Electricity Company of Ghana. Police say the cables were being processed by removing the insulation to extract the metal components, which were then compressed into metal blocks believed to be prepared for export. Authorities recovered more than 100 tons of the stolen cables during the operation, describing the activity as a sustained and systematic operation targeting national electricity infrastructure. 10 suspects were arrested during the raid. They include 2 Ghanaian nationals, Samuel Ekpe and Preston Padri, as well as 8 Chinese nationals believed to be the managers of the company. The suspects are assisting police with investigations, while a 24-hour security guard has been placed on the premises to prevent the removal of any materials. The CID says the theft and illegal export of electricity cables have contributed to disruptions in power supply affecting homes, businesses and public institutions. Police say they will continue to work with the relevant state agencies to protect national infrastructure and bring perpetrators to justice. Members of the public are also being urged to report suspicious activities involving public infrastructure to the nearest police station or through the police emergency line.
And as we continue with the stories, Goldboard Jewelry Limited has responded to recent criticism following its association with the Women of Valor event held in the United Kingdom over the weekend, clarifying that it did not sponsor the event. Speaking on Good Morning Ghana, former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Inusa Fuseni, stated that the offering participants of Women of Valor discount on Goldboard jewelries is a great way of advertising Ghana's gold.
When we add value to our gold, we can potentially earn 5 times of what we are sending out as raw gold. And so that is what it's doing. Now, how many people know that we are adding value to our gold? How many people know that we are producing jewelry? So even though he's issued a report that they never sponsored the event, their presence there was to advertise what they were doing. And what better place to do that than in a meeting of women of valor who probably have money to spend on jewelry. What I mean, thinking commercially, what better way? The fact is that they did not give money to the organizers to organize the event. But I have no doubt that their presence over there further advertised, brought to the people and that community of women the exquisite jewelries that Gold Board was producing. And that if we were sourcing their jewelry at other places, in Dubai, India, and other places, they could not look to Gold Board to source their jewelry. So, if you talk about the commercial sense, it made tremendous sense to send to exhibit our jewelry there, and also even to give them discount, because if they bought the jewelry at discount and wear same, they will still be advertising the exquisite nature of the jewelry that we were producing in this country, and the benefits, the overall benefits, come to Ghana.
You give all this hope.
NDC internal wranglings, NPP communication team member Kojo Nsafwa called on the NDC to attend to their base as the base needs their pound of flesh.
To the youth. Then they come in and they see some people that have spoken anti-NDC and spoken against the success of the party and spoken against the flag bearer at the time, now president, right? And they see that certain institutions within the government is sponsoring these activities. They will be upset. Because you might have paid for something. You might have done something. Like my brother said, look, there is a commercial benefit. For you to come and deny and say that I didn't give any money, what the case you should make is, like Honorable said, there is a commercial benefit to the sponsorship. You are displaying your jewelry in Woman of Valor, elegant environment to showcase, and if you do get commercial activities, you've made money. And for me, whatever is going on social media, whatever the blowback is for the NDC, is for NDC to deal with.
Okay.
I mean, I honestly don't think that that issue should be a concern to anybody, except that both parties, I think the MPP should have learned what the NDC should have learned what the MPP went through.
Okay.
And now that they are in power, they should have found a much better way to deal with it than the way it's being dealt with now.
And that's it for this afternoon news. Good afternoon, Ghana continues from here. Desmond Okweku is in his seat right now. Desmond.
Right. Nana Kusikwetia, thank you very much for bringing us the news update. But definitely, one of the things we're looking forward to for the day is that the MP-elect for Ayawaso East, Baba Jamal, will be sworn in as a Member of Parliament for the area. And of course, for the by-elections, you are in the constituency following all of that. And the people were happy that Baba Jamal won and would be representing them. I mean, a few things you could say before we wrap it up.
Yes. And, with that very particular elections, I told you earlier on when that time we covered the event, I told you that, some people of the notion that they would have wanted somebody else to stand in for the NDC in that very community. But the truth of the matter is, he is the most qualified person to actually run for the NDC in Ayawaso East, and that's just what happened. He won the seat, and I'm glad that at least they have someone who is going to head that constituency to change their constituency and also bring better, transformation into that community.
Right, so we're definitely looking forward to that as our parliamentary correspondent, Dominic Ansapra, will be joining us and tell us what is happening in Parliament. But before Nana goes, the Schools Homecoming here on Metro TV has also been going on. Nana, what's happening this week?
All right, so this week, that is Thursday from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30, Wesley Grammar and then St. Augustine's are coming. Okay. And then we'll have another wonderful girls' schools. Crowborough Girls will be passing through just to, give us tidbits of what's going to happen this Saturday. Because this Saturday, they also having their, more or less like, it's a homecoming speech and prize giving day. We're having St. Augustine's also. They're also celebrating their weekend speech and prize giving day. Wesley Grammar last week, they had a wonderful time. So there's going to be a review of what actually happened. And also look at the projects that they are embarking for their school as alumni. And also we're going to look at what St. Augustine's intend to do as they celebrate their day this coming Saturday.
Right, we'll see about that. So join us on Thursday 9:30 a.m. for that. Right, so Nana Kwesi, thank you very much for bringing us the news updates. My name is Desmond Okrekuda. So we're on to 2 p.m. on Good Afternoon Ghana. As always, we're live on Facebook at Metro TV Ghana, also on DSTV channel 277 on Radio 94.1 FM. Today's conversations are very, very important to us as a country because we're looking at our petroleum sector and how we can definitely make sure that we're safe in terms of any crisis as we are seeing in the Middle East and all that is being said about the effect it would have on our economy. And so we'll be speaking to our guest via Zoom. Dr. Tony Oben is going to join us via Zoom. So we talk about this. He's the CEO for the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. We're going to talk about how the project is going so far. We know some of the folks in Jomoro are also speaking about the project. There are also some targets that the corporation has set for 2026. We'll talk about that and also taking a look at what is happening in the Middle East, the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran and all that. We'll talk about that also. And also look at a story that has actually been developing. It's about Ghana's royalties when it comes to gold production. Over the past few weeks, there have been some concerns from some of the partners in the European countries that the thought of increasing the royalties for Ghana is one that they aren't happy about. But anyway, it's going to happen. So we'll get to talk about that also and several other issues. And when Dominic Ansapra joins us from Parliament, we'll also connect with him. So let me just run by you what has been happening with the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. Now, the CEO, whom we are about to speak to in a bit, wrote a piece, and I would want to read some portions of this particular piece, and then we get him on to speak to us about this project. So he's actually talking about why Ghana must accelerate this Petroleum Hub project in this era of global geopolitical uncertainty, where we're hearing, wars, some tensions, conflict, and all of that. How can we as a nation prepare ourselves? And in this case, looking at the Petroleum Hub project that has been ongoing. So just to read a bit of what he wrote, he said that energy security is no longer a technical or industrial issue. It is a matter of national sovereignty, economic stability, and geopolitical resilience, and countries that control refining capacity, storage, and distribution infrastructure are far better positioned to withstand global shocks than those that depend heavily on external supply chains. That's a very profound paragraph in this particular piece that he's written, and he adds that the recent situation has also highlighted why the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation project is a critical economic shield for Ghana and provides ample justification for President Mahama's commitment to securing Ghana's energy future through the Petroleum Hub, among others. And the write-up also highlights how a fully fledged petroleum hub project in Jomoro will mitigate the impact of such crises. So these are some of the things that we'll be talking to Dr. Tony Oben about, and he joins us via Zoom. If you can hear me, Doc, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time here on Good Afternoon Ghana.
Thank you for having me. I'm having some struggle getting to the video, but I think you give me 2 seconds on a bit. I'll be okay.
Okay, right. Then do sort that out so we can see you. Let me just continue with the reading of some of the things you mentioned in the article.
I think we're
right. I can see you now. I can see you now. Many thanks for taking time to speak to us about these critical moments we find ourselves in such geopolitical tensions that's happening in the Middle East. First off, for many Ghanaians who would be hearing of the petroleum that is a hub development corporation, please explain to us what this project really is about.
Thank you very much. The Petroleum Hub Development Project is a project that is intended to secure Ghana's energy future as a key thing, and then also to ensure that Ghana industrializes via the use of its fossil fuel. Fossil fuel here, we're talking about hydrocarbons, we're talking about gas and the petroleum that we do have, including petroleum and gas that we may bring from elsewhere to add value to. And this is going to be built in an enclave. It's an enclave structure in Jomoro, where you have these to be built there, and specifically 3 refineries to refine a total of 900,000 barrels a day, per stream day. We are also to build, a port and jetty, the port infrastructure and jetties. And the difference here, the key difference here is that in Jomoro, we have the deepest of the shorelines. I mean, if you go to the sea, the depth of the sea, you have the deepest in Ghana. So it can.
Hello, Doc. Okay, so we're definitely going to be getting Doc back on, so he can.
You hear me?
Right, so Doc, I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Right, sir, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Doc, I can see you and hear you clearly.
Okay. All right. So. All right. Thank you very much. So we would have a port and jetty port infrastructure and jetties that can actually berth bigger vessels. At the moment, our Tema and Takoradi ports is a bit choked, and always we're trying to dredge and get space for the vessels that come to berth. So that's an advantage there. So we have that. We have the refineries. We have petrochemical plants, 5 of them to be built. We also have a series of tank farms that will, total, or that can accommodate about 10 million cubic meters of petroleum product. So the storage will be very much assured. This is in Jomoro. In addition to that, we're going to have a completely new township that is also going to hold a lot of other ancillary activities over there. So it's a complex which is found almost on every continent but Africa. Africa doesn't have that. This will be the first in West Africa, obviously, but also the first in Africa. If you go to most of these continents, at least there's one or 2 petroleum hubs over there. So that's what we are looking at doing. If you go to Rotterdam, you see that. If you go to Singapore, you see that. If you go to Shenzhen in China, you see that. So I think it's an opportunity for us to have that infrastructure that will also lead to the development and other ancillary infrastructure, and which will actually boost the economy of this country.
Right. So, Doc, you talk about the geopolitical tensions happening. And let's rewind to a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, with the Russian-Ukraine war and the effects that it had on several economies, including our very own. What were the things that happened during that time from your perspective, looking at the effects that it had on our local economy and what we could learn from that regarding this project?
I'm sorry, the earlier part, I didn't get it.
Right, so
the last part I got.
Right, so I'm just asking that what did we learn from the earlier global crisis from the Russian-Ukraine war that we would use that as a lesson for this project ahead of any other global tensions that come our way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the government has learned a lot of lessons. I know the Ministry of Energy and our President John Dramani Mahama, has thrown a heavy weight behind the Petroleum Hub project. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources has just openly, committed himself to this project. And I must also say that the Minister of Industry, Trade and Industry and Agro-Processing, because there is an industrial element of it, she is also very, very supportive. I think Minister Ajari, very, very supportive of this project. So there's a massive support, massive governmental support because of the lessons we have learned and the advanced thinking of this government. This government doesn't wait till incident happen before it reflects, it reacts. It thinks ahead, it thinks upfront. So I think these things are lessons that you learn and you move them beyond as you grow.
Right. Part of your piece talks about that is refining, storage, and all that. Let's get to the bits of refining because it's one of the areas that, as a country, we've not done so well. It's recently that TOR has come up again and working as it should be. How important is that aspect to this project that we're embarking on?
I think value addition is very important. Refining actually gives the value of your crude. It triples or quadruples the value of your crude from this natural raw or nature. We don't have the huge quantities that we need to do large scale refineries. I mean, I'm talking about internal production. Local production doesn't allow for huge, large scale refineries. However, in most of these hubs, you have feedstock from elsewhere. If you go to Singapore, they don't produce a drop of oil, but they have the third largest petroleum hubs in the world because they have created conducive environment for people to feel safe, feel confident to come and refine. We have most of the conditions in Ghana, and even better because Ghana has a bigger land size. Singapore is just about the size of Accra or so, and so on. So the refinery itself as an economic activity doesn't have to rely on internal production alone. I mean, just as when you go to Belgium, they produce cocoa and chocolate and all that. They don't produce the cocoa beans, but they have most of the chocolate factories are located in Belgium. It's a matter of economic consideration. If you go to Switzerland, the same. So we need to broaden our thinking from just what do we have the feedstock, and then go to the fact that can feedstock be brought from elsewhere, especially when we have AFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the head office is here, which means that you can bring feedstock from Angola, from Namibia, from everywhere in Africa at no or lower customs cost. You can do that in Ghana and then distribute that to the world or to Africa. I must add quickly that, and I'm sure you know about this, about 85% of our petroleum product consumption, I'm talking about Africa, is brought from outside. 85%. Only 15% is generated locally. This presents a huge opportunity for Ghana to develop this and then feed into this African market, which is waiting to be consumed. And the consumption of petroleum products keeps increasing. The consumption by Africa keeps increasing. Much the same happens in Ghana. So the market is there. Tor is doing very well and must be supported. Sentio and I think Akwaba, they are all doing very well, but they must be supported to increase their production. But if you have to move to the hub, which Tor can even move there, Sentio can move there, can establish more refineries there. We are not in competition. We provide space and opportunity for you to develop your petroleum industry. So we can do that, but the opportunity for big storage would only be achieved at the hub. We are intending to store 10 million cubic meters of petroleum product. So if we have had that in crisis like this, obviously we wouldn't be worried about the buffer or what we have, how quickly would the price affect the people in the streets. It would take some time. So, there are a series of advantages for Ghana to have its own petroleum hub and to control its own energy future.
Right. Doc, how much are we spending on this huge project?
Good question. This project is a private sector-led project. It is not coming, generally, it's not coming from the budget of government. Where government comes in is the facilitation, which is what government does. The government should create the environment for the private sector to play in. So what government is going to do is to complete the acquisition of the land for the project. That will entail some outlays, some government outlays. But again, that is what it is. You acquire the place for business people to operate. Just like we have the free zones areas. Free zones areas in Ghana are lands acquired by government, which allows for people or private sector to set up manufacturing for export. So, and the land eventually pay for themselves. The lands that are acquired, they would pay for themselves because of the acquisition or the leasing to the private sector. So for government, let me estimate that government may be spending in an area of, let's say, 800 million Ghana cedis. 800 million Ghana cedis, which is about 880 million. I think $800.
So that's about $74 million with the current dollar rate. $74 million.
Yes, just about $80 million, $80 million. That just around that figure. So this is what would go into the acquisition and possibly the payment for compensation for those who have properties on the land. So our role as government or as government institution is to be the interlocutors and facilitators. We promote the establishment of these infrastructure in those areas. And then government can go into PPP with some of these investors. The model we look at using with a major infrastructure would be BOOT, build, own, operate, and transfer within a certain period. And when that is done, it goes to government for free.
Okay.
And that's what it is, yeah.
Doc, what's the scope and how long are we to expect this project to go on with the putting it together?
Well, let me just repeat that we have 3 refineries, a series of storage tanks, and I've given you the figure, 10 million cubic meters. We have a minimum of 5 petrochemical plants. We have port and jetty infrastructure that we're supposed to build. Now, this is supposed to be done within 10 years. The theoretical time is 10 years. The cost is very tricky because we have a theoretical cost of $60 billion. But that is only theoretical because once you review, once circumstances change, it's likely to come down. People have different modes of building refineries. And in this day and age, we may even have much cheaper way of building refineries. You have them, the ones that have been fabricated elsewhere, you just move them and then fix them. So the figure is just theoretical. It may be lower. In most likelihood, it will be lower. So, but for your purposes, we can say $60 billion for it, and it's supposed to be done within 10 years. I didn't mention the township that is to be developed, the ancillaries, they all combined to get into that process.
Right. I'll get into the townships that will be developed. But last week, there was a media engagement, and then you mentioned that about $100 million will be required to compensate affected landowners. Is that part of the total amount you've mentioned, or this is different?
No, it's part. It's part of the amount that, you mentioned between 74 and 80.
Right.
So if you round it up and say, look, $100 million,
right,
then part of it can also be used for government-owned joint venture arrangement, because the plan is that much as the key infrastructure may be owned by investors, foreign or local, the ancillary project and ancillary infrastructure will be owned by joint venture, through joint ventureship, government and other partners who intend to do that. So government is not going to just stand somewhere and people making money and running away through, with our resources. But these are amounts that may be available for government to strategically join with other investors to do some of the ancillaries. It is a strategic thing. So we are looking at $100 million as a ballpark.
Okay. So the Petroleum Hub Ghana project, as we know, began in December 2020, and that was via an act. And so it was in the previous government of the NPP. Why is...
Sorry, go ahead.
Or that's not it?
That's it. Please go ahead.
Right. So my question is, it started somewhere in 2020. Why are we starting all over again? Were there challenges with what was started from the previous government?
That's interesting. I have always spoken about the history of this hub, just linking it back to Professor Atamil's time when he thought about building a series of tank farms, having a refinery, and then also doing one, I think it was fertilizer manufacturing. That was thought in a smaller way, but he came up with those thoughts. And unfortunately, the previous government actually, concretized it. They actually, brought the concept in a full purview,
right,
and then did some documentations, even identified the area for the location. They even cut the sod. There was a sod,
yes, in August 2024.
Ceremony. Exactly. At which the then president said that he has instructed his ministers to release $200 million to start paying compensation to the affected landowners and farmers. Unfortunately, not a dime was paid, let alone received, which created the impression that the money was there but had not been used to acquire the land. So first of all, there was no money paid, nothing, not a single dime was paid. Third, second, you see that the size of the land, which was about 20,000 acres, became a source of controversy. Our president, the President John Dramani Mahama, looking at the issues very carefully and seeking technical explanations from his team, also decided that rather than use 20,000 acres for the project, he used 5,000 hectares, which is convertible into acres as close to 12,500 acres. So you see the size of the land has also sort of decreased. Now, which doesn't affect the project at all.
Okay.
It doesn't diminish the project at all. Maybe the land was bigger than we probably
because
needed.
Doc, I know you'd go on, but in June 2024, there was an agreement of a $12 million agreement for the first phase of this project. What happened with that? Was there no money? Did we not see anything? And when you came in, was there an audit that sought to find out if really monies were paid or not? Anything like that?
The $12 billion that you're talking about has to do with the phase one. You know, we have phased the project, not in a sequential way. We call it lot 1, lot 2, lot 3.
Okay.
The lot 1, the anchor investors, we signed an agreement. There's a document and it's an agreement that we have even reviewed with them. But there was no land available. You know, you may have an agreement, a contract that come and build something, but you must have the land on which the infrastructure will be built. That land was not fully acquired, because to acquire the land, the law requires that you pay compensation to the landowners, or at least show your commitment to pay compensation. That didn't happen, and the process doesn't stay ab infinitum. Once you apply, there's a limitation for you to conclude or get to some level. But even though the intent was shown, the real acquisition did not happen. So now, after the change of government, we have to go over again. And that's why we are now finalizing the acquisition process with the help of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Lands Commission. We are very hopeful that that process would get to a certain level that will go to cabinet for an executive instrument to be released to sort of cover the land. And so we can now ask the phase one people and others who are very close also on phase two to come in to start their work.
Right. So does it mean under the NPP, whatever that was done was not there?
That would be the answer. The only thing that you can also say is that there are some documentations were done. There's no doubt that some documentation, initial stakeholder engagement was done, but no land was acquired. There was no land acquisition. There was no compensation paid. So we just had to start from that level at the moment, and we are far advanced anyway. And we are hoping that by end of June, that's our internal hope. By the end of June, we would have concluded with the land acquisition process.
Right. The people of Jomoro are not, or they're asking questions why there's a delay. Has there been any engagement with them?
Oh yes, and that is the reason why they are asking. They are complaining about the delays. Okay. You know, somehow you say you're going to do something in a place, you have pepped up the interest of the people there. Young people who don't have jobs, they have hands their hopes on the job. On the hub operations that will generate some jobs for them. And of course, there are some farmers who've been waiting for compensation to be paid. They are not sure whether they should go back. In fact, they've been told that they shouldn't go back to work. So there's always the anxiety of whether we are going to do it or not. So I think that is where they are coming from. But we have engaged quite a wide range of people within the Jomoro enclave We have engaged people beyond Jomoro Enclave, but whose stake are also linked with the project. As you were there the other time, we had an engagement with the CSOs who play a very key role in issues like this. So the engagement is ongoing. The engagement cannot be an event. The engagement must be a continuous thing, which we are very, enthusiastic at doing. We have had a series of meetings with the traditional leadership of Jomoro, some youth, traditional leadership of the Western region. We've done a lot of media engagement, some ministerial engagement, and even at the level of the presidency, at the request of the president himself.
Okay, Doc, one of the things that happened, especially with communities around such minerals, we can talk about the gold areas, we can talk about the cocoa areas, and how disappointing it is to see that they haven't exactly been transformed. Those towns have not been transformed with the minerals that is found in the area. What is going to happen with Jomoro? What's the clear-cut plan for them? Because if they're going to give this the land and going to accept that this project should take place, then all of that, we should see a major transformation in that town. What's it going to be like?
Yes. First of all, there's a clear decision that priority will be given to human resources from within the enclave. And therefore, those who need some skills updates and upgrades would be supported. We are enjoying to do that, to prepare people to be ready for the job market in the area. Secondly, a lot of activities are going to happen there. I think you saw the 3D figure of what is likely to happen, the video of what is likely to happen there, and it's a 4D actually, and it's massive. This will require a lot of people to be employed. On our studies, we see that close to 780,000, I think between 780,000 and 800,000 are likely to be employed, both direct and indirect, when the entire project comes into effect. Within 3 years, if we start, we are likely to employ over 66,000 people for the job over there. So the mathematics must be right, the economics must be right, and we must start the project. Once we start, there's going to be an improvement in the employment situation of the area. Now, by the plans, by the drawings, and by what we intend to achieve, you will see a transformed Jomoro. You will see a new enclave, a new township with modern amenities. There's an intention to build a quaternary hospital there, which is akin to the University of Ghana Medical Center. There's going to be bank enclaves inside. There's going to be high-level economic activity there, which will inure to the benefits of first the people of Jomoro and Ghana as a whole. I don't think if our theory comes out, as we want it to, we'll be able to employ. We'll have enough people to employ from Jomoro.
Right, and that certainly would be good news for the area, as you've also said that about 700,000 jobs will be created for the people of the area. So we'd look forward to that. You say that this year, 2026, is a year of action.
Yes, that is not me alone. No. It is the hub. We had our own meeting, and we agreed that there must be action. And this action is not only action from us, those that we can, talk to so that they also become active and help us to become action-oriented, we will do that. So we see this year as a year of action, that we should move away from talking like I'm doing to going to the enclave, going to Jomoro and seeing that machines are there working, land has been acquired, there are some people building some refinery or petrochemical plant or some storage tanks, and not always answer to interviews by the media and meeting people to say, oh, we are going to do. That is not why we are here. We are here to facilitate. If we had the money ourselves, we would have built that. But our role is to facilitate the construction of this fantastic project, which will actually ensure Ghana's economy is powered by about 70%. We have employment to the level that I've indicated. Ghana will receive a lot of revenue, and eventually Ghana will become an industrialized country based on its hydrocarbons, and our energy future will be well secured.
Doc, continuity, it's one of the issues we've had in this country. When a project is started by a certain government and they are not in power, it seems hard for another government who comes in to continue. What's the plan for this particular project in terms of continuity?
Well, you know our president, who is very forward looking all the time, President John Dramani Mahama. He said during his campaign that, look, when I come to power, and he knew he was coming to power, any project started by my predecessor, if I look at that and I see it will benefit our people, I will continue. So if you look at this project, the previous government didn't pay anything. They said they were going to release 200 million. It was never released. But he saw the project and realized that this project has something for my people. This project has something for Ghana. So they said he will continue. So there's continuity here. I don't know when you say continuity, what you are dreaming, but we will continue and finish it. So that's the policy of the NDC government.
Right. Doc, when I say continuity, if it's good. When I say continuity, I mean it's we're in 2026. The next election is in 2028. Yeah. If the NDC or if the NPP comes into power, another party comes into power, is there a document that binds them to continue this project as you are not in government as NDC?
Don't dream. It's a bad dream that you are dreaming. Do you want that to happen?
No, it's not my call. The people will decide at the end of the 4 years.
Yes, but I know Ghanaians will make the right decision. They have seen this horrendous situation that they saw. I don't think they want to go back. But it's a question that needs to be asked. We hope that, and the president's hope is that good project must always be continued, because you see this project, if it comes to fruition, would not have been money from the president's own personal pocket or my own personal pocket. It would have been money from Ghana, and therefore, if it will be beneficial to the people of Ghana, why, in your right senses, would you stop this from achieving the benefit? So, in terms of document to bind, I think it's at a higher level where there should be a requirement for government to continue projects started by the previous government. I think that one is higher than the Jomoro project alone. But the project is such that to not continue would be to show how irresponsible that government would be. The president has decided that I will continue this, even if it's 10 years, and the president may not be here when the entire project would have been concluded.
Right.
But he still thinks it's a good project, we must conclude it, and he will support it, and he is supporting it.
Okay, right. I mean, I'm just asking. So, if the NDC does 8 years, it will be left with 2 more years. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But Doc, let me.
I can tell you, government that have been in power for 20 years, and even it's in the Western country, not in our country, where in our continent where we think that we use force. There are some governments that have stayed in power even in the Western world for more than 10 years. So don't be surprised that the NDC, if it continues to do the good things it's doing well now, cannot stay in power for that long. Why would you change the government when it's doing well? You change the government when it's not doing well.
Right, the people will decide. So if you just tuned in, we're speaking to Dr. Tony Obey. We're not done yet. We would want to get into some other conversations. Of course, as a former CEO of the Minerals Commission, and some I'm taking a look at the gold resource we have as a country. And in the past few days, there have been conversations about royalties and an increment in that. What will benefit Ghana? We'll get to talk about that and several others. But you can definitely leave a message with us on our social media handles at Metro TV Ghana, also on DSTV channel 277 and on 94.1 FM on the radio. You can definitely join us here and share with us your thoughts on the issues that we have raised here as we're talking about this project that is supposed to be a 10-year project and supposed to transform the town of Jomoro. And we pray and hope that it goes on, as Doc has mentioned to us. So Doc, back to your piece and the bit about the global tensions, the conversations about how it was going to affect our economy. We've been speaking to some economists, some government officials, some members of parliament on the finance committee who've been sharing their thoughts about this. From your perspective also, as you are in that field, Doc, what have you seen of the current situation in the Middle East, and what could be the repercussions to us as a region, talking about Africa, and then narrowing it down to Ghana?
Okay, thank you. I mean, my remit for this conversation was my petroleum hub. I just
I just draw you in a little bit to just see your thoughts on that.
I want to double into those areas, but I mean, from a common sense point of view, we have seen significant surge in the price of petroleum globally. I mean, prior to February. I think February 8th, I mean, the day of the war, February 28th. Prior to that, petroleum price the Brent crude price was about 67. It was, oscillating between 67 and 70. Just on the day, it surged to 100 and was again oscillating between 100 and 120. It peaked at 120. Today, I see the price going between 87 and 92, probably because of what President Trump said somewhere, that the war was going to be over soon, maybe giving people the assurance that it was going to be over soon. But again, when that happens, it affects everybody, because the whole world is powered by crude. It's powered largely by crude. We are moving to this non-fossil based energy sources, but we haven't moved there yet. We are not there yet. So the whole world continues to rely on that. So what is happening in the Middle East area? I mean, there's really a clarion call to all of us that we need to secure an energy future. We need to be sure that when these things do happen, we are not, impacted so seriously by them, because we are part of the world. We're part of the world. So whatever happens in one place also gets to us. So, of course, Ghana has been very lucky. I think we've been able to manage the situation much better. And I know that the Minister of Energy and Green Transition has been having sleepless nights working on how to ensure that this thing doesn't, impact negatively on Ghanaians. The president has been doing that, I believe, and all the institutions that work with the pricing are working hard on that. I think we can trust the proper management of the situation. But this is something that awakening us. The world is now moving from the kind of globalization geopolitics to sort of nationalization geopolitics, if you like. People are talking more about themselves, and maybe I call it more regionalization geopolitics. So we need to be looking more into our regions and be a little selfish for ourselves, because if you look at America, America is trying to be selfish, making America great again, not making the world great again. That's what they're saying. And so Ghana must also be looking at itself, as we have been doing, as the president has been trying to position Ghana so that we are ourselves great again, and our region is also great again. So that's basically the implication. And of course, it goes even beyond the oil price. When oil price also goes up, it has effect on inflation. It has effect on insurance. The Hormuz Canal was the Strait of Hormuz. When it was blocked, what it means is that if there's any shipping activities going on, your shipping line will attract higher insurance that will also have implication on the cost of the product that your vessels are carrying, even if it's not crude alone. So it's got a wider implication on the entire world. Yeah.
Dr. Obin, talking about positioning, and then just supposing that with the petroleum hub projects that we're talking about, how does that position Ghana on the sub-regional block, and then on the regional block, and maybe on the global block also?
Yes. No, when this project is done, when the project is fully done, it will be the first in sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, the nature that we are planning, it will be the first. And it will serve West Africa generally. And then, of course, could also extend to other parts of Africa. We could now process, instead of everybody having small refineries, everywhere, we can process West African oil in Ghana and Nigeria. I know Dangote has a refinery, a big refinery going on now. So if you can imagine that Africa or West Africa refines its oil within Ghana and Nigeria, it will be good for us. The cost will be lower. We can have secured source of energy, paying much less for it. And we can create job and industrialize using our own fossil fuel, and also bring in some fossil fuel from elsewhere.
Right. And Doc, what will be the economic benefit? Because this is really, really huge. How does this impact our general economic state as a country?
The calculations are very clear. We anticipate that our GDP would be boosted by about 70% once the whole project is on board. We also have spoken about over 780,000 jobs likely to be created, both directly and indirectly. We would have also had a much better way of using our fossil fuel, which includes gas and oil and all that. And so that would be an industrialization using these feedstock from our own source and from sources outside. Don't forget that when we don't have to import crude, we are saving our foreign exchange. When we don't have to, we spent last year or so, Ghana spent about 3 billion in crude import. In petroleum product import. Could you imagine if we were not importing? We would have used our own CD to buy our own fuel here. So it's something that is positive for foreign exchange management. When you have availability of fuel, it's a dampener on inflation, because fuel import and fuel prices have serious effect on inflation. So if we don't have to have any volatility in the supply of fuel, we can be sure that the impact on inflation would be minimal. So there are a lot of benefits that can be derived from having the hub. And of course, if Rotterdam is having that benefit. If Singapore is enjoying the benefit of a hub, we cannot see why that benefit cannot be enjoyed by Ghana for the West African sub-region.
Right. And sometimes there's a timeline for project, as you mentioned, 10 years. What could be the challenge that could possibly extend this timeline?
I believe the timeline has already been extended because from the theory of this project, from the book plan, we're supposed to have started last year. And we had issues with the land acquisition. So we probably will have to count our 10 years from when we acquired the land. So we are hoping that by June, by God's grace, we are able to conclude the processes of having our land. And I must add that our MP is also, the MP for Jomoro has also been really, really supportive. She's quiet because she's in a different ministry. You don't see her in the limelight for the project, but she's a bulwark for this project. Honorable Afutofi, if you're watching, my greetings to you. She's been a very supportive pillar of this project. So, having said that, we think that land acquisition would be a major determining factor once that land is done. As far as we are concerned, we have had a number of interest from a lot of investors. I told you that already we have an agreement with the anchor investor. We are working very hard with another investor who is looking at phase 2 or lot 2. Very, very close with some financing ready and all that. So it would mean that phase 1 and 2 will be anchored already. So we are doing our best. We are doing our side. Government is supporting us to do our side. So once we have had the land acquired, then we will challenge the investors that, look, you were knocking at our doors, you were kicking our doors open. Now the land is available. Go and start. And I believe that is where we can fully count on the land. And I think nothing will stop that project as it were.
Right. This is a project that's going to take up a lot of money. Are there any measures put in place to ensure transparency and accountability in the financing of this project?
Definitely. This project is big in size. It's a private sector-led project. The current accountability system would be used to support the side of government, the role that government has to play in this area. So there are measures to ensure international ones, international measures. Ghana is part of MIDA. So internationally, our constitution also guarantees that transparency for projects that ensures that investors have their projects of their investment secured over here. What we are doing now is part of effort to explain and create a transparent situation for the project. So I think that that's something that will be done, especially a big project like this. There are international eyes on that. Fortunately, monies are not going to flow from government. It is not government that is going to put money into it so that people say, this big amount or this big project, government money is going to go, everybody is going to do this and that. This is going to be built by private sector using their own money. Just imagine what happens in a bigger way at the free zones areas. There are a lot of activities going on in the free zones area. Nobody complains about that because it's being built by a private sector who knows what to do, but who works under certain clear framework set out by government. So be assured that transparency will continue.
Okay. Doc, we're wrapping up on the conversation. Anything that we didn't touch on this project that you want to bring to the attention of viewers?
I thought you touched on most of the key things, but let me say that the current geopolitical situation has really sort of highlighted the need for this project to be accelerated. I'm sure there were times when the people were not too sure whether to move it or not, but for its worth, if we had this, it would be, in fact, it would be an opportunity for us to even store other people's fuel and make money. You know, if we had the storage tanks alone at the Jomro Enclave, we would be storing materials, we'd be storing product for other countries, if you like. And we don't have to depend on others when we are in situations like this. So, and again, because this project is likely to employ so many people, we need to accelerate, and that's where I'm so excited. And finally, let me say that this project sits very well in government's 24-hour economy. It is very, very important that we underscore this. You know, refineries operate 24 hours, 24/7 refineries. Processing of these products, I mean, industry, you know, this petrochemical industry, they operate 24 hours in a day. If you look at the storage tanks, they are also a typical 24-hour operator in industry, sort of. So we sit very well into the framework, and I think we are key to the framework of the 24-hour economy. And we hope that all Ghanaians will support this and ensure that we see this from the talk to action. Like I said, we are in the year of action for the Petroleum Hub, and we are hoping that this will be seen on the field very soon.
Right, thank you very much for your time this afternoon on the show. We appreciate you speaking to us and giving us updates on this particular project. We'll definitely come back to you for more on that. So Dr. Tony Obeng is the Chief Executive Officer for the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation, and giving us some updates on what is happening with the project. Right, you're still watching Good Afternoon Ghana here. My name is Desmond Okrekutas. We're getting into another conversation about one of our mineral resources, and we're talking gold. We're talking gold now because Ghana is, today is March 10, right? And Ghana is proceeding with plans to introduce a new sliding scale royalty regime for gold mining. Now, this is despite concerns raised by foreign governments and mining industry leaders. Now, the new policy replaces the current flat 5% royalty rate and links government revenue directly to global commodity prices, allowing the states to capture more value as gold prices rise. According to a framework reviewed, the new regime will require mining companies to pay royalties of up to 12% when gold prices reach $4,500 per ounce. Gold is currently trading above $5,000 per ounce. The policy also introduces a similar sliding scale royalty for lithium, ranging between 5% and 12%, depending on prices between $1,500 and $3,200 per metric ton. Royalties for other minerals will remain at the existing flat rate of 5%. And we're joined on phone with a conversation of on this. Former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Inus Afuseni, who is also a former Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, joins us for this conversation. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program.
Good afternoon, Desmond. How are you?
Very well, sir. It's a pleasure speaking to you once again. Now, this has been one of the concerns about Ghana and our resources, our natural resource or mineral resources, that we do not get the value that that befits us as a country. What's your initial thoughts on this new royalty scale that is coming out, or that is starting today, also being a former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources?
So, in the year 2023, the Akili Kwasoya Committee was established by Professor John Evans Mills to look at the whole fiscal regime and framework for extracting royalties from the mining sector, particularly with particular reference to gold. At that time, the gold had risen from the low levels of $800 an ounce, $800 an ounce to 1,800, 1,600, 1,800. But Ghana was still stuck with the royalty regime that put the royalties at 5%, and it was a view of the country that the mining companies were getting a lot of bonus. I mean, their internal rate of return had improved by reason of the improvement in the price of gold on the world market. And so this is an attempt. It has been a long time. I mean, when they produced their report, Akili Kwasoya's report, they recommended a sliding scale, but we were unable to implement it. So many years after, close to 10 years or 13 years after, we are now trying to implement a decision that was taken long ago. And so we are somehow, it's long overdue. I mean, because we realized long ago, when even gold prices were just 1,800, that we needed a regime or an instrument that captured most of the value for the country where this mineral is produced, and that's Ghana. That we needed to share in the increases in prices of gold on the international market by taking more in terms of royalties from the mining companies. And this is what the sliding scale thing is trying to address.
But why did it take us so long to implement this?
Well, you just said that even this time we have stiff opposition from some external countries, from our partners. And so yeah, but I don't know. I left the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources in 2014.
Right.
Maybe at that time they mounted a fierce opposition to the implementation of the sliding scale method of calculating royalties.
Okay. How does this new scale impact our economy? I know it's a huge jump from 5% to 12%, certainly a 7% increment there, and we're looking forward to raking in quite an amount from that.
It's just a recognition of the fact that when prices improve on the international market, we must share in the windfall profit that companies are making. We must share in it, and we must share in it in terms of by way of the royalty regime. That's just the idea behind it. That companies come into this country, apply for concessions, and do an internal rate of return on their investment, and that when the prices improve on the international market, the internal rate of return also improves. So we should not allow them to take everything. I mean, we're making huge amounts of profits from their operations in Ghana to the exclusion of the country. And that when that happens, when the international market favors them, it should also favor the country. That's just what you're asking for. So there are triggers. If gold prices reach $4,500 an ounce, then the upper band, the floor, the ceiling of 12% on royalties will be taken. If they hit a low, the ceiling, the floor of 5% will be taken.
Okay.
So there will be triggers. There will be triggers in the law. At what point in the international market will a trigger be invoked? Will there be a trigger for us to adjust the royalty regime?
Okay, right, and just on a bigger scale, going forward as a country, how do we make sure that we we're able to ask for what we deserve in such negotiations.
Exactly. And I think that is why the countries are raising opposition. Because at that time that I was at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, one of the arguments that the mining companies made was that an increase in the price of gold on the international market also led to an increase in their cost of operation. And particularly that the fuel prices were getting higher. So they argued that the fuel prices had consumed the excess revenue that they were making from the international market. So it behoves on us, now that we know their concern, to also keep a keen eye on the cost of operations of the mining companies, for them not to come around and say that, well, even though gold prices have gone high, our cost of operation has eaten up the profits that we are making.
Right, and I was going to ask if this would have any negative impact with maybe some mining companies thinking that, well, the royalties are too much, and so we will pack out, or it would deter others from coming in.
I don't think so. As a nationalist, I don't think so. I think the gold has been around since God created his F Ghana, and the gold is a finite resource. It's finite. It's finite. I mean, when the gold is taken away, we lose it. We should look at gold and all the mineral resources that we have as assets. And when they are exploited, we lose them. They are not renewable. So if a company says that 12% is too high, he leaves the gold. Let's leave the gold in the ground for future generations to come to mine. But we should not give away the asset for free. We should not. Because when the asset leaves, when the gold is mined and finished, it's finished. Countries have leveraged on their mineral resources to develop. South Africa is an example. Botswana is an example. Dubai is an example. Norway is an example. And we see that where countries fail to leverage on their mineral resources in a way that returns value to the nation, with some level of intentionality and deliberateness, the mineral resources are exploited and nothing, the country doesn't gain anything. I mean, recently the Vice President of the Republic went to open the Chira mines, I mean the Newmont mines in Chira or somewhere. And he said it clearly that what was happening must translate into better conditions of life for the Ghanaian, better schools, better roads. So these are the kind of investment that the exploitation of our natural resources must bring to us. But if you go to Obuasi, where mining has taken place for more than 100 years, there's actually nothing to write home about. So I think that it's a new paradigm, a new thinking. In fact, probably the reset agenda, that mining our mineral resources must be looked at in a way that returns benefit to the country, and instead of the disproportionate benefit going to the foreign investor.
Right. How do we bring in our institutions like the Minerals Commission to make sure that they monitor what is being done by these mining companies and certainly us getting the royalties that we're asking of them?
Yeah, so monitoring their operations. The Minerals Commission is a regulator. So monitoring their operations, ensuring that they have clear view, including the Ghana Revenue Authority, a clear view or understanding of the operations of the mining companies, how much minerals are won by the mining companies and taken out of the country for us to exact our share of the royalties. Indeed, in the long run, like President Mahama said, we should be moving towards refining the gold that is won in this country, because when gold is won in the country and taken out for refinery or for refining, they don't account for the silver, and you can't refine gold without getting silver, and the silver too is an expensive commodity on the international market. So When you refine, you get 5 times. I said it this morning on your network. When we refine gold and add value to it, we get about 5 times. 5 times of the value that we will sell the raw gold to to the buyers. And so, moving forward, maybe it beats my mind, but maybe because it was a colonial arrangement, how gold could be won in Ghana and taken to Switzerland for refining, and that for all these years we don't have a refinery. So it's part of the colonial exploitative mechanism that was put in place to ensure that our resources were exploited and taken out of the country for the benefit of other nations and not us.
Right. So we're talking about this, how good this new royalty system is. There's an increment. We're going to make money. But then you even touched on some of the communities in these areas where we have these mineral resources. How is this going to be beneficial? How do the people in these areas feel it that indeed we are making money from the gold that that is being mined from these areas? How do we hold government? How do we make sure that we are seeing development in these areas and not what we're seeing currently?
Yeah, so first of all, if the royalty regime is implemented, it brings much more resources into the government purse. It makes us have an increased beneficial value in our gold resources. An increased beneficial value, an increase in resources from our gold makes the envelope for development bigger. And that envelope can then be used, one, to remedy some of the effects of the exploitation on the communities where mining takes place, and two, to provide infrastructure, roads, water, hospitals, and whatnot in those communities for the common good. So public goods provision will be enhanced because of the improvement in our financial situation by the return to the country of resources which otherwise would have gone elsewhere.
Honorable, you have been around. You've seen it in our political space, and how we have also benefited from this, and how our arrangements are looking at the competitiveness on in terms of gold production with others. If you look at this new regime, what sort of competitiveness are you foreseeing with other gold producing countries?
People always come up with competitiveness. When you go to Norway discovered oil the same time the United Kingdom discovered oil, around the same area in the North Sea. Norway had taxes of up to 75%. United Kingdom did not have that tax. Norway saw the resource as an asset, and so they invested the resources. They established the the funds, sovereign funds. And today, Norway's sovereign fund has about 13 trillion or so dollars in the fund. United Kingdom has nothing from their oil. They even privatized their oil resources. So the regulatory regime, the governance architecture that is put in place to regulate the exploitation of the resource is as important as the resource itself. And we've seen it, recently, Botswana started engaging again with De Beers in order to improve upon their share of the diamonds won in Botswana. And so, in the past, it would have been unheard of that a country will start renegotiating agreements that have been entered into long before, which agreements were skewed towards the investor and not the country where the resources are found. But the thinking is simply that these resources are assets of the country. They are assets. They are not consumables. their assets. And so we must benefit from those assets in such a way as to enable the utilization of these assets, catalyze our developments. Look at Dubai. Dubai was an outpost. The only things that Dubai was known for was fishing and pearls. Pearls, trading in pearls. But when they discovered oil, they treated the oil as an asset. Today, and they used the oil resources to develop that country. Today, Dubai is known not for oil, but for a hub in transportation, in the digitalization, and in communication, tourism. That's what it's known for. So we must always look at the asset in terms of the resources that we have, the mineral resources that we have, the natural resources that we have, as assets to catalyze the development of this country and treat them as such. That is why the African Mining Vision, which informs the Ghana Mining Vision, says that we should leverage on the resources for our own development. And we cannot leverage on those resources for the development of the country if a disproportionate amount of the benefits go to foreign countries than the country Ghana.
Right. Honorable Yusuf Hussaini, thank you so much for speaking to us this afternoon on this new policy. We appreciate your time here. He is a former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central and also former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. In the next, 10 minutes, we're going to open the phone lines so you can call in and share your thoughts about what is happening in the Middle East. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the impact and all of that. What are you also thinking about that? In fact, the conversations we have had today, especially on this new gold that is policy in terms of royalties, what do you think about that? You can call in and share your thoughts with me right here on the show. In the next 10 minutes, we'll do that. And possibly we could also get to convince, I mean, for our Muslim brothers and sisters out there who are getting ready for the Hajj pilgrimage, we have a conversation that when time allows, we'll be able to play a conversation we had with the chair of the Pilgrims Affairs Office or the Hajj Office on preparations so far for this year's pilgrimage. So give us a call and then let's talk about this. But let me just continue with some of the things that this new policy is supposed to do for us as a country. And it is interesting to note that many governments had actually, embassies also, had actually opposed the increment of the royalties. And it was quite interesting to hear what they had to say. So let me just read some of the things they had been saying about why these foreign countries were pressuring Ghana over the gold royalties that we have increased. Right, so let me just go through this. So the governments of Canada, Australia, China, South Africa, and the United States raised concerns about the new royalty sliding scale policy that was before Parliament, and the measure that was laid before Parliament last year sought to replace Ghana's current 5% de facto royalty rate on gold with a sliding scale ranging from about 5% to 12%, depending on the price. Now, under the proposed framework, royalty rates would rise as commodity prices increased, as I mentioned earlier. So, for more than a decade, gold mining companies have effectively paid 5% royalties on revenue alongside a 35% corporate income tax, 3% growth and sustainability levy, and several other statutory payments, including withholding taxes, mineral rights fees, and surface rent. Now, when all these are combined, Ghana's overall government take from mining companies something around 48% to 50%. Now, industry modeling suggests that the proposed scale could push the effective tax rate for mining companies from between 60% and 65%, placing Ghana among the highest taxed mining jurisdictions globally. So that was one of the, or those were the concerns that were raised by some of these countries who have been competing with Ghana as gold producing countries, and also some of the European countries. But let me get onto the phone lines and speak to our very first caller. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for calling. Your name and where you're calling us from?
Good afternoon. My name is Alaji Faisal from Boku.
Right, Alasan, speak to us.
Alaji Faisal, not Alasan, Faisal from
Faisal, right. Speak to us.
Yes, I'm calling in respect of I've monitored the social media since yesterday up to now, and I realized that something is going on social media, and the media, nobody among the media personnel are out there to also support or to defend the person. I'm talking in respect of Nanaba Anamwa. The NDC food soldiers are attacking her everywhere across the media landscape, the social media. But the media personnel, I realize that all the media are quiet about it. Nobody is even trying to come out to defend her.
But Faisal,
Is it if you are a media personnel, you are not entitled to also benefit anything?
You make your point. You go on. Hello, Faisal.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I am asking that. I am not privy to whatever arrangement that has gone on with the person you mentioned and the organization. What has happened? So how do I defend something that I don't know of? I don't know anything about. So I understand your point, and it will be right for us to do that. But until we're able to get the details of what exactly transpired, there's not much we can do. Right?
I understand your point, and your point is well noted. But the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't mean if you are a media personnel, you are not also entitled to benefit anything in this country, or what is the issue. I'm not saying you should go into it, but at least those that are attacking her on social media, calling her all manner of names, at least I'm expecting the media personnel, because she's your colleague, you should be able to also come out and defend her whilst waiting for the report to come out.
Okay.
That's my point.
Right. Fasa, anyway, how is Boko?
Well, Boko is not safe, because every day there's gunshots, every day they are shooting and killing people. People inside Boko cannot go out, and if you are outside Boko, you cannot go in.
Right. So I mean, just because you called from Boko, I just want to understand how everyday activities such as schooling, how is that going? Or there's nothing happening?
It's not going down well at all. The media is not highlighting what is happening in Boko. It's not going down well.
Wow. Okay. Faisal, thank you very much for calling, and we'll definitely keep tabs on what is happening in Boko. And I mean, when it comes to social media, we can only say that in terms of disagreeing with whatever happens, it should be devoid of insults and all that. But as I mentioned, I do not have information about whatever happened, and so I may not be able to address that. Hi, good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling us from?
Good afternoon. My name is Ali. I'm calling from Nima.
Ali from Nima, please go ahead.
Yeah, we are trying to find out concerning regardless of the items happening in this country. It's like we are not ready to move with the main concern, because looking at it today, Ghana has a lot of spaces that I think is needed to be taken care of, because we have a lot of spaces like Ebri Mountain to down up to the Kofedra. All those mountains has a lot of resources that is needed to be taken up. We need to have people to go there and do research, to do experiments, to do a lot of stuff, to see what we're gonna have it from there, because there's a lot of resources over there. I'm telling you, Ghana has been blessed by Allah, and also due to our lack of social intervention, a lot of discovery have not yet been done.
Okay, right. Ali, thank you very much. But before you go, you're calling from Nima. Your MP-elect is being sworn in Parliament today. What are you expecting of him for your constituency?
Yeah, as well as I'm calling from Nima African Diaspora Museum and also Zango University now campaigners. My concern is very simple. We are calling elect MP to make sure he has bringing a social intervention to the Zango community, especially Nima.
Okay.
Nima is within the municipality of Flagstaff House, 37, TV3, and GTV.
Right.
But we have never achieved a single social intervention from the current president when he was then president. We need E-Block to help us move it because we don't have E-Block. The president is in Nima, but we don't have E-Block in Nima.
So that's what you're expecting from Baba Jamal, right?
We are expecting from Baba Jamal and the Mr. President because once Mr. President is in Nima, Nima need to have E-Block. And also, the president should also consider Zango University campaign project that we are campaigning.
Right. Thank you very much, Ali, for calling. And so that'll be all for our conversation this afternoon on the show.
Also, my last word, I want you to be campaigning for us for Zango University. We are campaigning for Zango University.
Right, Ali. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for calling. Right. This will end the show for today. Many thanks for joining us. It's been great coming your way. My name is Desmond Okrekudanswa, and keep watching Metro TV. And for more news, log on to our website, www.metrotvonline.com. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Into it. Do you think anything else should come with the deposit?
Thank you so much for joining us. I will see you next week with more such stories. Until then, take care. Goodbye. Namaskar.
Iran, January 2026. No internet, no foreign observers. Nothing is meant to reach the outside world about the protests and their brutal suppression by the regime. But from the shadows, brave voices emerge to declare what is happening. Voices of defiance.
Close up. In 15 minutes. Is it a he or a she? Determining the sex of a dolphin is not easy, yet it can decide their future. Because females are much better at adapting to changes in their environment. We sound the depths to find out why. Tomorrow Today, in 90 minutes.
Think you know geopolitics? War, power, strategy, the same old voices keep telling the same old stories.
What if everything you thought you knew was wrong?
Hi, I'm Shani Rosales.
Hi, I'm Waslat Hasrat Nazimi. We'd like to invite you to Global Eyes,
the podcast that rewrites the playbook on geopolitics.
Bold, fresh, and fearless conversations
with critical thinkers who challenge it all.
Global Eyes, a different perspective on geopolitics.
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
The untold story. An eye for detail. A different point of view. Find it here. Reporter, every weekend on DW. A hospital in the shadow of war. Joseph Yacoub, the only surgeon in the area, works here. The region suffers from extreme poverty and decades of civil war.
They come empty-handed. They have no food. They have no shelter.
Dr. Yacoub and his team are the last resort for many.
Oh my God, it's too small.
A lot of us have lost children due to neglected health, disease, and malnutrition. We want a future in which we don't lose any children.
Sudan, a hospital in the shadow of war. Watch now on YouTube.
Oil prices have fallen after hitting almost $120 a barrel on Monday. That's as U.S. President Donald Trump indicated the Iran war could end very soon. Trump told Republican lawmakers the conflict was likely to be a short excursion. Iran's Revolutionary Guard responded to the remarks, saying Iran would determine when the war ends. Iran's Revolutionary Guard say they will not allow 1 liter of oil to be shipped from the Middle East if U.S. and Israeli attacks continue. U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to dramatically increase strikes on Iran if Tehran would try to close the Strait of Hormuz, a vital choke point for the global oil supply. The European Union is planning to boost the development of small nuclear reactors, aiming to reduce Europe's reliance on imported fossil fuels. EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen told a nuclear energy summit in Paris that reducing the share of nuclear in Europe's energy mix was a strategic mistake. The Commission hopes the technology will be operational by the early 2030s.
As East Germany fell, the ruling Communist Party's wealth surfaced, and some were determined to hold on to it.
Da sind 3 Leute bei uns auf die Idee gekommen, dass man doch irgendwo eine Reserve anlegen muss.
How do you stash away billions? The deeper you dig, the darker it gets. The mystery of the missing billions. Follow the money. Watch the full story on YouTube.
NATO members are feeling the heat from the Iran war as Tehran hits back at countries across the region, many of which host US military facilities. Last week, a UK base in Cyprus was targeted by Iranian drones, and Turkey is being drawn in as well. Michael J. Williams is an expert in international security and NATO. He's my guest in a moment. But first, on Monday, Turkey said a ballistic missile launched from Iran was neutralised near the southeastern city of Gaziantep, just a few hundred kilometres from the Incirlik air base, which is home to US personnel. It was the second missile intercepted over Turkey since the start of the war. Iran's president has tried to distance Tehran from the incident, telling his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan that Iran stands ready to assist in an investigation. But first, let's listen to this warning from President Erdogan to Iran, telling Tehran it was putting their good relations at risk.
Despite our sincere warnings,
extremely wrong and provocative steps continue to be taken that will put Turkey's friendship at risk. We must not engage in any scheme that will inflict deep wounds in the hearts and minds of our nation and cast a shadow over our 1,000-year-old neighborly and brotherly relations. Turkey's position and stance are clear. Its extraordinary efforts to prevent further spread of the conflict and bloodshed are also evident.
DW correspondent Dorian Jones is following this story for us from Istanbul. Here's his summary of what happened.
The Turkish Defence Ministry, in a statement, strongly condemned a missile strike aimed at Turkey. It said the missile was shot down in the Gaziantep province, which borders Syria, just 200 kilometers or so from the important Turkish airbase of Incirlik, which hosts a large American Air Force presence, including nuclear weapons. It is the second strike by Iranian missiles in less than a week. The Turkish Defence Ministry said that all means at its disposal will be used decisively to defend Turkey. Turkey has a number of military options at its disposal. It has NATO's second largest army, a large military air force, as well as a large drone force as well. It's also a member of NATO, and it could invoke NATO's Article 5, which says an attack on one member is an attack on all. But Turkey is very wary of an escalation in the war against Iran. The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been in the forefront of calling for a diplomatic solution and has been in contact with a number of its foreign leaders in a bid to seek a diplomatic solution to the conflict. President Erdogan is also aware that if Turkey was to be embroiled in a conflict with Iran, this would put major pressure on Turkey's financial markets, which are already reeling from $100 plus a barrel of oil, stoking fears of a potential currency crisis going forward. But a key factor in Ankara''s decision on how it will act is who does it believe is responsible for carrying out these missile strikes. Tehran denies it is responsible, but Ankara is also aware that since the onset of the war against Iran, Iran has employed the Mosaic Defense Doctrine, which sees a major decentralization of decisions by the military's local commanders. And it is plausible that possibly a local military commanders could be responsible for these attacks, given the fact that it is considered that there was any hope of an attack on the very well protected Turkish airbase of Incirlik would require a sustained barrage of far more than just 2 missiles. Who is responsible for this attack? Is it a sign of Tehran's new strategy that it will now target Turkey going forward, or whether it's the local commanders will be key to deciding what steps Ankara will take. For now, at least, it's expected to ramp up its diplomatic pressure on Tehran that these attacks on Turkey have to end, and they have to end now.
Dorian Jones there, and it's great to welcome Michael J. Williams now. He's an expert on NATO and Professor of International Affairs at Syracuse University. Michael, thank you so much for your time. Now, Iran has denied wanting to attack Turkey, but it is the second time an Iranian ballistic missile has entered Turkish airspace. What do you think the most likely scenario is here? Could it be a rogue missile, a provocation, or perhaps something else?
Well, it's always possible that it could be a rogue missile. However, the Iranians have struck all across the region. So rather than isolating their attacks to just U.S. targets and Israeli targets who are conducting the military operations against them, it looks like they've targeted purposefully Turkey as well as all members of the Gulf Cooperation Council. So that can't just be an accident, the number of missiles that have hit all these countries in different places. So it really sort of degrades the Iranian protests that they are doing this accidentally, that it wasn't with purpose. So I think it's part of their strategy. What's interesting is that it seems to be a counterproductive strategy. If they had chosen to isolate the military force against Israel and the United States, that would give the local powers sort of more space to sort of push for peace. But with their targeting them, it puts them in a difficult position that they'll need to respond and potentially get involved themselves.
Given what you've just said, what types of deliberations will Turkey be doing in order to work out what its response will be?
Yeah, well, there's definitely extensive internal deliberations going on in Ankara as they probably weigh different options and sort of figure out whether or not they want to retaliate now or whether it would be over another period of time where they might do that. There are also going to be deliberations with NATO allies bilaterally. They have not invoked Article 4. So Article 4 is the mutual consultation clause of the Washington Treaty that established NATO, whereby the member will then raise this to be discussed at the North Atlantic Council, which is the premier body for discussions. And so that would precede an Article 5 self-defense invocation. So they haven't done that, and I think they don't want to, because even just having consultations formally within NATO sort of elevate the issue. And I think they want to try and keep it localized. They want to try and keep this bilaterally between Tehran and Ankara. And so I'm sure there's also, third and finally, a lot of back-channel discussions going on with Tehran. The Iranians have signaled they're willing to do an investigation to see what was happening here. Again, it could be just a protest, but I'm sure they're trying to probably de-escalate things at the moment. They don't want this to become a wider regional conflict.
So you're saying that Article 4, this deliberation clause, would sort of elevate this incident, something that Turkey doesn't want. So at the moment, based on what you're saying, it doesn't seem likely at the moment that NATO, as a broader alliance, could be drawn into this.
Well, not at the moment. I mean, NATO is involved in the sense that it's NATO air defense assets that are positioned to defend Turkey that have shot down the missiles. So in a certain sense, NATO is already involved. And I'm sure that the Turks are speaking with their NATO